Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started now. Let me check something first. Okay, so we got two things to do today. One, you guys requested that we look at the third homework together, and two, if we have time left over, we could look at the week 9 sections, because I did notice that the due date for this is on the 6th, and that gives you a little bit of time. So what do you guys want to do first? Do you want to do the sections or the homework first? Homework? Okay. So let's look at this. So I've taken some time to look at this on my own time, and to be honest, these homework questions, they're not too bad actually. They're actually quite good if you're if you're trying to develop your skills as a computer programmer. So there was none of these that I found that's super hard. That being said, which problem do you guys want to do first? We have problem 1, 2, 3, and 4. So problem 1 is about repeat string, where we write a function that takes 2 arguments, a string and a int n, and we repeat it n times. You guys want to do problem 1 first? Is that what I see in the chat? Jose Garcia says, I was wondering how to return the answer. Well, that's not difficult. You just put the return keyword next to the thing that you're returning. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a brand new project here. I guess I'll call this I'll make this big enough so you guys can see. Okay, so now we're ready to start this. So I'll just put a big comment on the top saying homework 3, problem 1. So let's say include iostream Okay, so problem says write a function called string repeat string, and it takes 2 arguments. One is a string called stir, and the other one is an int called n. So this function is supposed to return the string stir repeated n times, right? So for example, if we call repeat and it says ho, and it says repeat 3 times, it'll return ho, 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 like that. See? So this is going to be very easy to do. All we got to do is, let's start by copying this. and placing it here. Put our squiggly brackets. And now, who has good ideas on how to do this? I already have one idea in mind, but I want to see if anyone else comes up with any. Well, yeah, we're going to use a for loop, right? Just as Arturo Perez says in the chat. So here's the idea I had in mind. I'm going to make a string variable, and I'm going to name it something. This is the string that I'm going to return, right? So maybe I'll call it stir return. And I'm going to set it equal to empty string, like that, see? So right now, string return is blank, but I'm going to concatenate it every time I run my for loop, right? So I'm going to need a for loop that iterates n times. And we all know how to make a for loop, right? I'm going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than n, I plus plus, like that. This is a for loop that will iterate n times, right? Now, each time I iterate, I will concatenate stir to string return, right? So I could do this one of two ways. I could do it like this. I could say string return plus equals stir, like that. Or I could say string return equals string return plus stir. This line of code and this line of code accomplish the same thing. But I'm going to use this just because it's shorter than this. So I'll just delete this. Okay, so now that my string return is ready, all I have to do is return it. So, and the way you return a string, and I believe this was the question that you asked in the chat, Jose Garcia, we're going to use the keyword return. And right next to it, we're going to put the variable that that this function needs to return. In this case, it's going to be string return. And I believe that's it. The only way we can really find out if this really works is if we actually tried it. So over in my int main function, let's do this call here, repeat ho3. So I'm going to say cout and then repeat ho3. Let's also end the line. Let's run it and see if it works. Yep, it says ho, ho, ho. Now, if I actually go ahead and debug this, you can see how it works in action. So let me get rid of this and let me dock this over here. All right, so when the compiler goes to line 20, int main calls the repeat function and it passes the string ho as stir and it passes 3 as int n, right? So the compiler jumps to the repeat function definition. It initializes a string called string return, which is an empty string, and it does a for loop right? And because n is equal to 3 here, as you can see down here in autos, n is equal to 3, this for loop will iterate n times, and each time we iterate, we will concatenate string to string return. So in the first iteration, string return is equal to ho, as you can see in the autos. And then when we iterate again, it equals ho ho. And then when it iterates again, it'll turn into ho ho ho. And now because I is equal to n, this is no longer true, so it'll break out of the for loop, right? And then it'll go to this line, which is return string return. Right? Remember, because repeats is a function that's of type string, so we need to return something that's of the same type. And because return string is a string, we can return this, right? So when we go back, it'll go back to int main where it was called. It calculated what the string repeat ho3 is. And now it'll treat, we have, because this function is of type string, we have to treat it like a string. And that means in order to see its contents, we have to see out it. And there it is. Ho, ho, ho. So, Jose Garcia, did that answer your question about the return, like how to return? Yep. Okay. So what exactly was your issue? You just didn't know. Were you just missing the return keyword? Is that? I suppose I was confused about the phrasing. Okay. Yeah, because if this were a void function, it would be a little bit different, because if it were a void, we would just have the return keyword by itself and not return string return. But I'll get into that a little later. But it looks like Valerie Mora needs some help. So Valerie Mora, do you want to share your screen and we can look at your code?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop my share for 1 second and give you permission. All right, go ahead and share your screen. Oh, your return string return is outside of the squiggly brackets. It should be inside.
All right. Like right here?
Yeah, but you have to delete the.
Yeah. No, I was just showing as an example.
And also you should put that first squiggly bracket and return string return not on the same line. So put your insertion point between return and the squiggly bracket. And press enter. There. That should do it.
Okay, let me just.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's question 1. You guys wanna? Which question you guys want to look at next? Which of these questions do you think is giving you the hardest time?
Can we look at question 3?
Sure. Question 3 says, write a function that checks whether all elements in a 2-dimensional array are identical. Test your code by printing out the 2D arrays and if they are identical or not. So when I read this thing the first time, I was thinking to myself, so we have a 2-dimensional array that could be some number by some number. Let's call it m times n, right? And I was telling myself, is this function trying to check if every element is the same? And if it is the same, we'll return true, and if they're not the same, we'll return false. I think that's what it's trying to do, right? Unless I'm misunderstanding the question.
I feel like the question is kind of vague. Like, is it assuming that the arrays are the same size to begin with?
Well, yeah, in a two-dimensional array, a two-dimensional array is always m times n. Like, I'll say it in the chat, m times n. So yeah, every sub-array has the same number of elements. But one thing that I'm trying to figure out is,
oh, it's all elements within the array.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was comparing two different two-dimensional arrays. Okay, that makes more sense.
So what if it was 3D? Slayman Toki asked what if it was 3D. It would be m times n times p, I guess. We wouldn't use O because O looks too similar to 0. Anyways, yeah, so.
Is it particular letters, or you can use any letter?
You can use any letter.
Oh, okay, so that's just an example.
Yeah, that's just, you can use X, Y, and Z, to be honest. Now, write a function. Okay, so let me start a new Visual Studio. Yeah. Once I get this started, we can start cracking this together. Homework 3, problem 3. Okay, so I already have an idea in mind on how to do this. But first of all, let me ask a question. How many of you have ever seen the break keyword like that, or know what it does? We used it once before when you did case structures, but one thing that the sections might have skimmed over is that break is used for more than just that.
They exit loops, right?
Yeah, they exit loops. Well, it's actually not just loops either. They exit whatever exception handle that they're in. So they can also exit if statements, they could exit case structures, etc. That's what we're going to use here. Well, I'll get more into that when we get there. But first, let me just get this started. Include. Okay. Yeah, I just wish that Professor Amir was a little more descriptive about his homework.
Oh, yeah, I'm realizing that it's probably because it's a little even more confusing because there's a typo like at the end of the line, I think. Because the last sentence says like test your code by printing out the 2D arrays and if they're identical or not, implying that there's more than one array.
Mm-hmm.
But this first sentence says that there's one array, so
yeah, it's just one array. So
I'm not sure.
I think this should be array, not arrays. Well,
okay.
We can bring that up with him, or you guys can bring that up with him if you see him again. So let me do something real fast. Okay, so I think the first thing we gotta do is well, I need to point out the difference to you guys. What's the difference between a normal array and a 2D array? Now, if I had an array of ints, all right, I'll call this 1. Array. If I had an array of ints of size like 5, I would put in squiggly brackets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. But if I was declaring a 2D array, the way I would do it is I would say int, this is my 2D array. So the number in 2 pairs of square brackets, in the first one, I would say the size of how many subarrays I have. So if my m was equal, I'm gonna put a comment here. If my m was equal to 3 and my n was equal to 2, I would put 3 here, 2 here, or 2 here, and then I would list it like this. Like I have 3 subarrays, each of size 2. So I would put in squiggly brackets 1, 2, and then go outside. Another one, 3, 4. Make another one, 5, 6. So this is what a 2D array is. It's like, try to imagine a 2 by 3 matrix. The first one has 1, the top row has 1, 2, second row has 3, 4, third row has 5, 6. If you really wanted to, if it helps you visualize it better, you could organize your code like this. Like that. White space, because white spaces don't affect anything, if that helps. Now, what exactly? So this function needs to check whether all elements in the 2D array are identical. Test your code by printing out the 2D array, and if they are identical or not. Now, one problem that I can foresee here is that if this was a vector, it'd be a different story because we can retrieve the size of the vector, right? But we can't retrieve the size of an array. So we would have to manually, I would think we would have to manually enter that information into the function ourselves. So let's begin writing our function definition. What do you guys want to call this function? Just the function checks.
Well, what type is it going to be? I was thinking it'd be a Boolean.
Yeah,
but...
a Boolean. Yeah, it'd
Okay.
be a Boolean because it'll return true if they are identical, false if they're not. Right?
Okay, so could we just call it identical then?
Yeah, maybe is identical.
Is identical.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. So let's say bool is identical. Now, I would say that this. Hold on, Ballymore has a question. How did you get 3, 4 down there and 5, 6? I just pressed enter and press tab. That's all I did. Like enter, tab, 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 tab. And that's all I did, Ballymore. Well, anyways, is identical. I would argue that this function needs to take 3 parameters. One is the array itself. The second one is an int value, which is the value of m. The third one is another int value, which is the value of n. Right?
Oh, okay.
I think that's the only way we can really do it. So maybe I'll put, nah, I won't put this here. We can just put it directly into the is identical. So I lost my audio. Can you explain line 5? Oh, we're just starting to create the is identical definition. So like I was saying before, it's going to take 3 parameters. One is the array itself. So maybe say, hold on. This is a good opportunity to look this up. Do we have to do anything special if we pass an array to using point function? No, we just need to say the data type, the array name, and then the size, right? So I say, we're gonna pass an int array. We should call this array something. Maybe we'll just call it array. And it takes, hold on. We have to pass the size to it. And that's kind of troublesome. So,
maybe we can just pass 2 integers through the function and initialize the array from within the function.
I don't know. Let me think about this. I'm looking at this example right now. So when it passed this, it said it left the first size blank, but it set the second size equal to 2. While the function called it. Could I possibly just leave these square brackets blank? And then would the compiler just know that this is a multi-dimensional array? I don't know. An array may not have elements of this type. Hold on, let me try something. Int m int m. Now it still doesn't like this.
It'll work if you define the array with constants, but
yeah, but this is supposed to be like,
yeah.
If I put 3 and 2, like you did in the example, then this function will only accept 2D arrays of size 3 times 2. So I'm trying to figure out how to do the general case, if that's even possible. So it treats this like this function it has 3 and 2 hard coded into it, so it'll always treat this like it was 3 by 2. But I'm just wondering why it has this 2 in here. What's the purpose of this? I don't know.
Apparently, the first set of brackets doesn't have to be. It doesn't it doesn't have to have a number in it for it to compile, but the second one does.
That's odd. So does this mean that I can put any number in here? 2.
Can you put a variable in there? Like, can you define a global variable, maybe? And use that as a reference?
Int m equals 3 and equals 2. I've been coding a lot in Swift lately, which is a different programming language, and that language doesn't use semicolons at the end of lines, so that's why I've been not putting semicolons at the end of these lines. But let's try that. So if I put m in here and n in here, would this work? But you're not. Okay, it likes that apparently. So maybe we'll just have these consts for now. But I guess if I have these consts, I suppose that also means that I don't need these anymore, right? But then this function would have to rely on the constant variables that I declared. Simon Token says, is there a class for Swift at CSE2010? No, I've been learning Swift on my own because I've been trying to get into app development, but maybe I'll tell you guys more in the future. But anyways,
is it possible to declare these variables based off of user input?
Well, the issue here is that these are global variables, and they're global because they're outside the int main. In order for that means that these variables are outside the scope of int main. So if you wanted the user to change them, we would have to change them using pointers. And I know you haven't learned that yet. In fact, that was actually the.
We were just learning about pointers in class.
Yeah. That's actually the week 9 material, pointers. But you just started learning pointers, right? Like you don't know.
Yeah, pretty much.
But anyways, let's just work with this for now, and see where it goes. And then, if you guys want, I can try to email Professor Amir and ask him, hey, is this the answer that you were looking for with this homework? Because it is kind of vague. We ran into this problem and this problem. I don't mind doing that for you guys. So here's what we're gonna do. So it seems to me like we're gonna need a for loop and a for loop, right? So I say yeah, we're gonna need a for loop and a for loop. So so the way you would access variables in a 2-dimensional array is you would declare the array like array, but you would have 2 square brackets indicating the position where you're trying to access, right? So here's what I'm gonna do. For the sake of time, I'm gonna write the code first and then I'll explain it later. So I'll say for int I equals 0, I is less than m, I plus plus. And then I'll put wiggly brackets here. So this for loop will traverse the rows, but the for loop inside of it will traverse the columns. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say for int. Now I can't say I here because I already used I here, and since this for loop's inside this for loop, this I would belong to this scope, and I don't want them sharing the same index. Otherwise, the nested for loop wouldn't work. So I'm gonna say j. Int j equals 0. J is less than. This time it's gonna be n, right? And I'll say j plus plus. Now I'm gonna have a check in here, right? Saying if so and so is equal to the same element we've been seeing, do nothing. But if it's not equal to, we'll break and return false. In order for me to show that, I would have to declare some other variables true. So I'm going to make a Boolean here called bool. I don't want it to be the same as this, so maybe I'll say elements are the same. So at this point, we're going to assume that the bool elements are the same is equal to true. But at any point in time, we see that we find another variable, we're going to change it to false, right? And then, do I need another? No, I don't think I do. So, oh, actually, we do need another variable here. I'm going to declare an int variable. And this int is going to be the integer of the first element we see. So I'm going to say probably, I'm going to be very descriptive here. I'm going to say value of first element we see. And this value is going to be equal to whatever value is at position 0, 0 of the array that we're passing, right? So I'm going to say, because in this function I call the array just array, I'll say array at 0, 0. Okay. So here's what we're going to do next. We have this nested for loop here that will traverse every integer in the array. So I know in my example I called it a 2 by 3, or is it 3 by 2? Yeah, 3 by 2. So imagine we have this, right? I don't want fill. Okay. So the way the for loop works is that it checks this, then checks this, then checks this, and then checks this, then checks this, then checks this, right? Now it would be different if I set my m and n values to something else, but But you already knew that. So starting with the very first elements, and the way we're going to check this is with this. If starting with the very first element, we're going to see if it's the same as the, we're going to, how do I put this? If array m, it's not going to be m, it's going to be if array I j is not equal to value of the first element we see, we're going to do something, right? So you know that value of the first element we see is going to be equal to array at position 0, 0. So it's going to be equal to 1, right? So in the very first iteration, this will evaluate to be true, which means that this code is ignored. But when we do the second iteration, the next value we're going to see is 2, right? Now, when we see the 2, it's going to say 2 is not equal to 1, right? So because we found the first value in which the elements are not the same, we don't need to check the other elements, do we? Because we found 2 elements that are different, there's no need to check the rest of the array. We already know that the elements in the array are not the same. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say elements are the same is equal to false. And not only are we going to do that, we are also going to exit this for loop because there's no need to check the rest. So I'm going to use the break keyword. Now, when I actually start to debug this, you'll actually see how this works. But we'll get there when you after.
Wouldn't just returning false serve the same purpose?
Yeah, you're right. That would serve the same purpose.
Yeah, then you wouldn't need to have a Boolean within the function.
Oh yeah, that's true. Because yeah.
And honestly,
the way that I envisioned it, I envisioned myself saying return elements are the same. That's how I envisioned myself doing it. But I think I'm gonna do your way because your way sounds like it requires less code.
Yeah, like then you don't even have to. Then elements are the same. Doesn't even have to exist.
That's right.
And you don't have to make an integer value for the first value. You could just compare ij to the array at 0, 0, right?
Yeah, you could. That's also true.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying we'll put this here and then delete this, right?
Yeah. And
then we could also do what you said, and instead of having this, we'll return false, and then here we'll return true. Yeah.
That should work, right?
I believe it should work too.
Hey.
Those are some very good suggestions. Thank you for that. So did everyone hear what who was it that said those things?
I said it.
Aaron Massey. Did everyone hear what Aaron Massey said? He made some very good suggestions. Like yeah, he said that I don't need to declare the int of the very first element. I can just put it here, and I don't need to use a break keyword either. I can just return false or return true. Because here's the thing, when we return, we are terminating the function, which means that any code after that will not happen at all. So if we ever return false, this code will never be reached. We would never return true. But if we traverse the whole array and we and we didn't find any elements that are not equal to each other, this if state would never happen, and we would reach this line and return true, right? Yeah, those are some very good suggestions. Thank you for that. So we need to check if this function works. And in order to do that, I think I need to declare two different two-dimensional arrays, one that in which the elements are the same and one in which the elements are not. So here's what I'm gonna do. Let's get rid of this. Let's copy this, put it here. We'll call this the array A. And we'll call this 2D array. Now, array, we'll have it be the same so that this can be false, but for this one, we'll have the values all be the same. So maybe I'll choose 7. Okay. So I'm going to say that cout is identical, and inside this, I will pass my array to the array A. And then I will call this again, is identical, but I'll say to the array B. So what should happen as a result is if you couted a Boolean value, it would output 0 if it's false or 1 if it's true, right? So what we would like to see, if this code really does work, the first line is going to be 0 because are these elements the same? No, they're not. This is the value to be false. But on the second line, we should see a number 1 because are these elements the same? Yep, they're all the same. They should output 1 for true. So let me zoom out. Let's run this and see if it works. We're hoping for 0, 1. That's it. Let me make this a little larger for you guys to see. Yep. Because the elements in 2D array A are not the same, it outputted false, which is 0. And because the elements in 2D array B are all the same, it outputted 1, which is true, right? Now to really, really see if this works, I'm going to change one of the elements here to a 6. And now this will evaluate to be false. Let's see if it does. And it does. Perfect. So here is the code that we came up with given Professor Amir's somewhat vague instructions. Well, this is what we came up with. Again, I'm going to email Professor Amir and ask him if this is what this is the kind of answer he's looking for, because in order to make this work, we did have to declare 2 global variables, right? But don't worry, I'll get a hold of him maybe after this class. Does anybody have any questions? I know that Valuemore needs help. I'll get to you in a moment.
Okay.
So at this point in time, I would put a breakpoint here and show you how this works, but we are at time right now. So, but as long as everyone understands how this works, then I'm happy. So does Did everybody get the code? Because if everybody already got the code, I can start helping Valerie more now. You got it? Okay, perfect. And again, I will put this video on Blackboard and directly after this meeting. So I think I'm gonna help Valerie Mori now. So let me stop my share. Do you want to share your screen? Okay. So you said J is not declared in the scope, right?
Right.
Well, first of all, that if statement that you have there, that should be inside the second for loop. Well, not just that, the squiggly brackets too that go with it.
Okay. Hold on.
Yeah. Okay. And then say return false.
Right. Should I move it up?
Yep.
Okay.
Put it right there and then delete those.
Okay.
And then delete the squiggly brackets. Yeah, that pair, delete that. All right. And to make your code look a little neater, I would like you to select lines 16 through 19. And then press tab. There you go. Try it now.
Okay.
I think it'll work. Hold on. Expected squiggly brace before token. What line is that? 40?
Yeah, 40.
Oh yeah, you're missing a closing squiggly bracket after the last subarray.
Oh, I am. Oh, I didn't even realize it. No wonder. Hold on. There we go.
Now maybe it'll work. So we should see 0 and then 1, right?
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Now,
All right.
now, like I said before, this is as far as we could get, making some inference in like assumptions about Professor Amir's big instructions. So I'm going to get a hold of him after this class. I'm going to see if this is what he wants, and if it's not, we can talk about it again in our next meeting. But we are at time, so if anyone has any question, doesn't have any questions, we could just wrap this up, and then we can talk about it again next Tuesday. Is everyone good?
Wait, the next meeting is going to be the Tuesday after this upcoming Tuesday?
Or what?
Since next week is spring break.
Oh wait, next week is spring break? Oh shoot, I didn't even know this. Hold on, CSE2010. Is next week really spring break?
Yeah, and the bad thing is that we can't finish the rest unless we have an early session, because it is due the same when we get back on Tuesday. Well, for this class, it's on the 6th.
Right. I noticed that too. This homework is due on the 6th. Damn.
I forgot to say something on like last Thursday or whenever it was assigned to tell you that to work on, if we could work on the homework.
Yeah, thanks. Because he didn't give you this homework until just recently, right? Like last session.
Yeah.
I think he gave it last week or something.
Yeah.
Gave it last week. Oh dang.
It would have been better if like one of us said, "Hey, we got homework again," so this way we could have possibly finished it as a class.
Yeah, but keep in mind, if we did do the homework in the like one session before, we would not have time to do the week 8 labs, right?
Oh, that's true.
Okay, maybe like I said, I'm gonna send an email to Professor Amir after this. I'm going to ask him if he would consider extending the homework, because I did only help you just a little bit. But I can't make promises though. Like if he says I want this homework due on the 6th, then there's nothing I can do about it. Right?
Yeah, it's not your fault.
Right. But don't worry. I don't know. Like, yeah, I did not know next week was spring break.
Me either.
Well, how difficult are the other 2 questions? Like,
I think 3 was the hardest one, honestly.
here was the hardest one. Yeah, because this one was very similar to. Oh wait, let me share my screen. Yeah, because here's the thing. I noticed that this problem was very similar to one of the labs we did. And this problem here is it's not really that hard. All we would have to do is all you have to do is use the append function. Oh, Slayman Toki said I can't find my error. Do you want to share your screen and I can help you? Okay. Okay, let's see what we got. Error is identical was not in the scope. That's line 32. Can we see line 32? Okay. Can you scroll up? Is identical. Can you scroll back down? Is
Try compiling again. It looks like line 12 needs to be updated.
Oh, I found your mistake. In line 32 and 33, it looks like he says is identical instead.
Yeah, he has a misspelling.
Yeah. So yeah, you have a misspelling on line 32 and 33. You said is identical instead of identical. Yeah. There you go. All right, go ahead and stop your share. So yeah, that's right. You guys have homework due 5 p.m. in the on the 6th. So
Maybe we could plan out like an early session. If that's not concluding with your time, if you guys are cool with it.
yeah, like I'm fine with that. Like
or even on Monday.
Huh?
I said, or even on Monday, I guess.
I don't know how this would work. Like, if it'd be okay with the rest of us, but like, you could send out like a mass email to all of us with like the clarification on the question, or.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you guys feel about that? Do you guys want to have yeah, I'm gonna ask. I'm still gonna send the email to Professor Mir, but I'm going to. How would you guys feel if we had a session, a homework session over spring break? How would you guys feel? Because I know some of you still need help. That sounds fine. Well,
it's fine with me. Yeah.
That'd be fine. Right. A lot of people in the chat said that would be fine. I guess if that's the case, the next order of business would be to try to figure out the best dates for everyone. And if that date doesn't work for everyone, that's fine too, because I will always put the recording up on YouTube later. But how would you guys feel if we had one either Saturday the 27th or Saturday the 3rd? one of those two. I know that's
What time would it be? Because I usually go somewhere on a Saturday.
a good question. I have to ask the whole class.
I mean, I'll bring my computer because it's just to my grandmother's house. I could always just bring my service, but of course I need to know the time.
I'd say whenever you're good. This is you taking time out of your schedule too.
Right. We gotta not like force you to go at this time. We need you to be okay with this time since you're going out of your way to help us.
Right. Well, to be honest, I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah, no, because I'd be fine with any time. I think my whole plans were a week long of pretty much playing games that I'm behind on, personally.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna catch up on all my next Netflix shows that I'm behind.
Yeah. The weekend would be hard for me, but I'm pretty confident I can figure it out myself. So
okay.
So maybe like you can ask for an extension, and then like if he doesn't give us an extension, then we can have the meeting.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a plan A and a plan B. I'll ask for if he's kind enough to give an extension and he says no, then we'll have the session of a spring break. Okay. So we have a plan A and a plan B. So if that's it for concerns, like I said, I'll post this video up immediately after, and then I'll email Professor Amir. If there's no more issues, I could wrap up this meeting now. You good?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thanks for coming, guys. Have a good spring break.
You too.
Yeah. Later.